Welcome to the channel, Zeneca33. Thank you so much for coming on, brother. I appreciate it. We're here to talk about some NFTs. Why don't you say hi to the audience and we can learn a little bit about you and talk about, this insane movement that is NFTs right now.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. Hello, everyone. I'm Zeneca. I've been in the NFT space for several months, which feels like several years. And yeah, I'm all about distilling the statistics and finding metrics and ways to track prices of things. And I just love everything about NFTs, really.
So on that note, the reason why I brought Zeneca on is with NFTs, people have no idea where to start. And I think that even up until recently, it's been the case that I don't always, know which artists I want to buy or stuff like that. I'm not an art collector in, the physical world, and I'm also not the biggest art collector in the digital world. But then there was this eruption of avatar projects and collections and collectibles, and it felt like the game became clearer as to like how you can sort of evaluate these ecosystems. For me, it was all video game items, and those were the things I was looking at, like Axes, Gods Unchained, those types of things. And then with these avatar projects, you started seeing these almost, I guess, a little bit more on easy mode, the ability to understand how to get in and trade, and the profits have just been absolutely crazy. So why don't you talk a little bit about your own history in crypto, and obviously, as you shared with me just now, the fact that you're almost exclusively trading NFTs, you don't trade normal cryptos, and then how you see this ecosystem.
Sure. So I got into crypto 2016, 2017, I think, like a lot of people, when Ethereum was coming out and blowing up, and that whole bull market was a lot of fun. I made a lot of money, but lost a lot of money at the end. And when the bull market ended and the bear market started, I sort of went back to normal life and I was a professional poker player before crypto. So that's what I went back to. And yeah, forgot about it. And then started this year, everything started going up again. And I was like, all right, let's check out this crypto thing. And I think it was around February, I was talking to some poker friends who hadn't really left the crypto markets. They knew what was going on, and they started talking about hash masks, crypto punks, these other NFT projects. And I legitimately thought they were getting scammed. I was like, this is a Ponzi scheme. You're paying tens of thousands of dollars for a JPEG. This is ludicrous. And they kept talking about it, and I kept thinking that they were getting scammed further down the rabbit hole. Until eventually I read, I don't know what it was some article, I think on the Not Boring Substack, actually, a friend linked to me, and it just clicked something, and I was like, hang on, there's real technology here. NFTs, they're not just a scam, they're not just a gimmick, they're here to stay. There's a lot of real world use cases, and I sort of decided I want to learn more about them and just the crypto space in general earlier this year. So yeah, two or so months I was trading regular crypto. I got into the shitcoin, altcoin cycle, played with fire a bit, and then eventually just settled on NFTs. And for the last 3 to 4 months, I've not really bought or sold coins. It's all been avatar projects and utility projects, gaming projects, anything NFT related is art. It's where I've been spending all my time and money, and it's worked out well. I mean, there's a bear market in crypto, but NFTs it's going berserk. It really is.
So for someone who obviously, the reason why I like your channel and wanted to bring you on, or your Twitter feed, is you're doing a lot of analysis and you're bringing a lot of metrics. The way that we analyze crypto is metrics, volume, buy pressure, percentage increases. It's really hard to do that with unique assets that oftentimes are liquid and rarely trade. Is that why, that's kind of one of my observations as to why these avatar projects have been gaining traction, is that the trading patterns are more relatable to, I guess, fungible tokens. But it doesn't really tell the whole story. Can you talk a little bit about like what these avatar projects are, why they hold value? Obviously, I want to make the caveat here that there are more and more projects rushing in to take advantage of the avatar trend. And a lot of them have zero vision, zero through line, and they will most likely go to zero. Now, with that said, some of these are going to have some crazy value, as we've already seen. So can you please talk a little bit about like what's going on here in avatar land?
Sure. So I'll echo what you said, that most of these projects that are going to go to zero. There's too many of them. They're just being pumped out every single day with very little behind them. But there are gems to be found in the mass land, and you can definitely realize amazing gains. So what's going on in my mind is that about 2 or 3 months ago, we had this project called the Bored Ape Yacht Club, and they were sort of the first to usher in this new wave of avatar NFT projects. And essentially, they released 10,000 NFTs at, I believe it was 0.08 Ethereum each. And it was the same flat price for everyone. Prior to that, people had been experimenting with sort of increasing price ramps where the early minters got a cheaper mint and then people paid more later. And basically everyone hated that. And those projects have all essentially failed. So they came out with like, they're like, okay, let's go 10,000, same price for everyone. And they sort of added this community utility aspect to it where they were like, we're not just going to sell you a JPEG, we're going to sell you a membership to a club. We're going to sell you a roadmap of ideas where we're going to provide value to you over the year, over the coming years. We're going to, one of the things that they've done is they bought up a big chunk of land in the sandbox, a metaverse type place.
It kind of sounds like an ICO, but like for bros, right?
Yeah.
And it's an IC bro.
I see, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like that. A lot of the value is created by the community members themselves, though. So while the team behind the project, they're sort of making partnerships to provide value to the holders. A lot of the value is just because everyone who owned an ape started reaching out sort of on Twitter and following each other and creating these groups and networking. And there was this value effect that it's sort of anyone who wasn't a part of the club was like, hey, I want that. I want to be part of that. And I know people have made business deals, like networking in real life. People go and play golf, that people charge hundreds of thousands of dollars a year for a golf membership. Whereas now we pay, well, I think today's price is 6 Ethereum or something for an ape, but it was 0.08. And then for ages, it was under 1 Ethereum. And the price is going up because there's scarcity. There's a maximum of 10,000 apes, and the number of unique owners is going up day by day. So that's where the value comes from.
So here's the thing that I think a lot of people struggle with, and I'm just going to play devil's advocate because
Yeah.
I was a big doubter on the pure collectibles. And I've become, I wouldn't say 100% believer, but I do believe that there is a basis here, a format that can be given true utility and can be stretched to amazing things. But what I see right now is mostly people who are clout chasing or social currency chasing. Is that what this is? Are people do people just want to belong to something? And that is what this is belonging to a unique club. And what is utility really in this world?
So for the first part of that, yes, there is definitely a sort of, as you say, clout chasing. It's sort of like people want to show off sort of a status symbol, saying if they have an ape, then they're part of this club, they can afford it. And there is that aspect to it. And I think that's sort of something that we're going to see more of going into the NFT world down the line years from now, because if people will pay $50,000, $100,000 for a nice watch, if they'll pay $5,000 for some fancy shoes or handbag, fashion statements, which a lot of people don't understand, but there's clearly a market for that in, the modern world, the meat world, as we call it. Why not have that same market in the NFT world? And it's clearly there. I'm not so sure that the Bored Apes is primarily that. I think it's a smallish factor, but maybe a medium factor, but the utility of the network effect and sort of to talk specifically about sort of future things that they're going to bring in, they'll give you sort of an avatar for the metaverse, the 3D world in the future. And I think we're going to see more of these metaverses popping up where, you already have games like Fortnite and video games where people are, Minecraft, where more and more people are spending time in front of a computer. And with virtual reality coming out, more and more people are going to be continuing to do that. And to have like an avatar, an identity is a big deal, I think. People relate to that, people want that. And the Bored Ape Yacht Club, as just one example, can provide that community, can give you the 3D files as an avatar, provide a clubhouse land in the metaverse. And I mean, it still sounds nonsensical sometimes to say that, a JPEG costs $12,000, for example, today. And it's, I know if you're not in the NFT world and you're listening to this, you'll be like, that's just a scam. That's outrageous. It's going to come crashing down. No one's going to continue paying for that. It's sort of like a bubble. But I don't believe it is. I think I look at the numbers and more people keep buying an ape every day. And like today we had, I think, 54 new members. And when you consider there's a supply of a hard cap at 10,000, most people who have an ape are not looking to sell their ape as well. So it's just prices are just going to keep going up, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely okay. So, done playing devil's advocate here. I have apes, I have punks, I have invested into all these avatar projects. And there's something quite unique that happens when you do actually own these, the feeling you get. However, I think the real connection comes and will come in these big, shocking waves of cultural moments, which is in, for example, in the traditional crypto sector, when a celebrity or an artist comes in and says, Bitcoin's the best, it doesn't matter. No one cares, right? No one cares.
Yeah.
In fact, everyone's like, what are you doing? Go make music, whatever. But when a celebrity or an artist or a musician or something like that does something from a fashion statement, or in this case, puts this avatar as their picture, all of a sudden, that actually does contribute something of value, because we all know that the value of celebrity, the value of fashion, the value of hard to reach social clubs and places is something that people work very hard to be a part of. And so I do think that it's in a weird way, this is the vehicle that the normal influencers, the normal celebrities, the normal brands, the normal way that most of our commercial society works can actually use this stuff effectively. Whereas nobody's using a DeFi token for status for anything like that. And in fact, usually those crossovers are horrific, burning failures, right? And so I think that there's something quite interesting there from a cultural standpoint. And I do think that most of these are going to zero, and some of these are going to become very, very prestigious items. Now, with that said, how do you navigate this? What tools do you use, and how do you view this landscape? Like, how can we assess a collection to see what's going on?
All right. Before I get into that, I just want to say, you probably already know this, but that is already happening with celebrities jumping on board the NFT train. You got Josh Hart, the NBA player. He had an ape and then a cool cat, and I don't know what he's.
He's got a goat right now.
A goat, there you go. Mike Tyson bought a cool cat and had that as his avatar. He may still do it. So that's very much already happening. Okay, back to how do you navigate this? What do I look for? Are you talking about sort of like how to pick which one to buy into, or
what metrics do we look at? Oh, how can, if I'm a crypto guy, most of the people's most of the viewers on this channel are viewing things from a traditional lens. What's the fully diluted market cap? What's the inflation rate? What's the volume? What's the market cap circulating? What is how many tokens are staked? What's the token velocity, and how many unique addresses? These are all fundamental things that anyone who's really deep into crypto can look at, white paper narrative and then on-chain metrics to sort of get a picture of like what's going on here. So what is the equivalent in the NFT world, specifically with these collections and these collectibles, which are kind of the rage right now? Obviously, picking one of one art, that's kind of a different topic, and I don't think we should talk about that. I don't think we have time to get into that. But I think this is a game where I see it getting hotter and hotter by the day. Maybe it's the top of the bubble. Who knows? Could very well be. But I also think it's something that could very well get legs. All of a sudden you get a Kanye or someone like that putting an ape on, or you get some massive cultural icon, and boom, you get some TikTokers all of a sudden hopping on this, and there's a new generation that want to be a part of this. And I think that it's quite disconnected from crypto, or from Bitcoin at least. And I do think that there's a possibility that this continues. So with that in mind, if I want to know how a collection is doing, how do I assess it? And obviously, I have my own tools, but for the audience, how do you do this? Because you do a good job of actually bringing some data-driven analysis to this world.
Right, so let me share my screen because I I just did these stats about half an hour ago. And can you see that?
It is popping up. There you go. So yeah, so I see a big spreadsheet here. You say you did this a half an hour ago. What does that mean? What did you do?
Okay, so I do this every day. I update the spreadsheet essentially, and the first thing it tracks is you can see the floor price, and that will be, so the floor price is, say there's 10,000 apes. At any given time, a certain percentage of those are going to be listed for sale on a secondary market like OpenSea. It looks at what the lowest price one is. So if someone wanted to buy a Bored Ape, how much do they have to pay? And that's the floor price. And I track that for maybe 40, 50 different projects. And I look at what it was yesterday, I look at what it was today, and then I'll do like a weekly, monthly, comparison as well. As you can see, can you see all the numbers?
It's very small. If you would be able to zoom in a bit,
Yeah,
it would be definitely good.
Let's try this. How's that?
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, so let me just.
So I see you have the collections on the left there. You have
Yeah.
you have the mint price, which is for those who don't know, that's the price that they initially sold them for, right? Assuming that it was a
Yes.
fixed price. Some of them, as you can see, were sold with Dutch auctions or bonding curves.
Yeah. So let's just take a look at Bored Ape Yacht Club because we've been talking about that. Total supply 10,000, mint price 0.08. Yesterday the floor price was 5.45 ETH. Today it's already 6.29. So that's what do we have? A 15% change in 24 hours.
And how significant is floor price? Like how much should people be weighing this statistic?
So I would say it's one of the better metrics for determining how well a project is tracking. Obviously, it's not everything. I also will look at the average price and the highest ever sale because it's important to see what the ceiling is and the average price. I was tracking and publishing the average prices for all these projects at a certain point as well, but what I noticed was that by and large, there was a very strong correlation between floor price and average sale price. So it just sort of made sense to track floor price. It's also where the market is most liquid. If you want to sell an NFT, and it's like, I think 70 to 80% of all NFTs in a collection are going to be floor pieces. They're not going to be a rare trait one that will fetch a higher premium. Then you essentially list it at the floor or just under the floor.
So floor price is like what you can get for it, essentially. Like if I really needed to sell this thing, here's what I could get for it. Yeah, maybe I have a rare one, and maybe someone's going to give me a much higher price for that. But for the average person, if you're thinking like, what can I really liquidate this JPEG for? This is the metric. So what about the idea that floor price can be more easily manipulated? Because look, I go into some of these collections, I spend 5-10 ETH. And I've now moved the floor price. Is there a narrative that in your mind is floor price a reliable metric?
Yes, I think it is. I mean, if you go in and spend 5-10 ETH and push the floor price up, it will very quickly go back down to sort of what the market determines it actually to be at, and maybe for half an hour to an hour there'll be an artificial floor. And I'll also look out for sort of those artificial floors. I can give you an example today. Where is this project? Pulse Square, as you can see, third from the top. That's a generative art. No, that's the wrong one, sorry. It was, where are we? Framergence, another generative art project. So you can see the floor price today, 2.5 ETH. When I went through and checked these stats, there was about 50 listed for sale and like 10 within the 2.5 range. And then there was one at 1 ETH. So that's obviously way lower than floor. And for my stats, I wouldn't put that in. I would put 2.5 ETH in just because when there's that much of an outlier, it doesn't make sense. And in fact, I told some friends, hey, if you have some berries, go buy this. It looks like a really good buy. It's so much below floor. If you buy it, the new floor is going to be 2.5. And within a minute, someone else had already bought it. So I think the market is pretty good about keeping prices accurate or fair or whatever. Yeah.
So floor price is kind of your barometer for what things are worth and what things can be traded for. And then, of course, you
Yeah.
want to see, what would be like a healthy volume for a collection so that people know, all right, this one's actually has activity on it.
So I, for volume, I don't actually track it on here, but oops, I clicked on the wrong date.
It's on
But what
OpenSea, right?
yes, it's on OpenSea, and you can click on the stats page and see the volume traded over a 24-hour, 7-day period. But I like to look at the number of trades. So, I mean, you can have a very high volume amount if, say, one person sells a very expensive one. But if you look at the number of trades, that sort of tells you how liquid and active the market is. And the more trades, generally, the more liquid and the more successful a project is likely to be. So if you're below 50, I'd say you're in the sort of low end of number of trades, and I'd be a bit concerned about how many eyes are on the project, how many people are trading it, how liquid it really is. Even if you list below floor, no one may buy it for a while. Between, say, 80 to 200, that's a pretty healthy range, and that's quite a lot of trades. And above that, it's extremely good. Either the project is getting a lot of attention or it's just launched, because as soon as the project launches, within 12, 24 hours after that, there's a lot of price discovery and price activity.
So what are things that you look for, or combination of things that you look for, besides getting there on mint day? Obviously, getting there on mint day is probably the easiest way to make a buck in this industry, right? You just, especially right now in this market, you find a cool project, high quality art, some promises on the roadmap, you mint as many as you can on mint day, and then you probably flip a few as the price goes up in the week leading up to the reveal, and you hope that you get some valuable ones. That's kind of the formula that I've been using. But besides that, like, how once something's trading, what do you look for as like, oh wow, if these data points are there, then I'm interested?
So the one metric for me is, well, there's a couple, but unique owners is probably my favorite one. So I don't know if I can, let me just try and zoom out a little bit so I can fit it all in. Can you still see that
Yeah, no, great.
well enough? Yeah. So this essentially tells you how many unique owners a project has. So again, we'll take Bored Ape as an example. There's 10,000 total supply. There's 4,700 roughly unique owners. That means that the average person has 2 and a bit apes, which is not many. It's a very healthy, extremely bullish sign when the unique owner percentage is high, because it means that generally someone investing in a project wants to keep at least one, because they believe in the project, they see long-term appreciation. And so if they have more than one, maybe they'll be looking to flip, maybe they'll be looking to sell. If someone has 20, then they're generally looking to dump a lot of those for profit. And that sort of downward pressure is where you get a lot of prices slipping and dropping and going below mint. So as you go further down the list, you can see we have a lot of projects in sort of this 20 to 30% range. And I think that's sort of the minimum healthy range I look for. Anything below that, and I start getting concerned. I think that there aren't enough members, there aren't enough unique owners, and the distribution of NFTs per holder is such that a very few percent hold a large number of tokens, and then they'll be looking to dump. And then what you see happen is that, I mean, a lot of people have the same idea as you just said, to get there on mint day, buy a bunch, and then sell some off for profit as price goes up. If you have too many people doing that, they'll be undercutting each other on the marketplace, and that drops the floor price, and all of a sudden it drops below mint. People start panicking. They're like, well, I'm not going to make profit. I just want to get out and break even. And then they're like, oh shit, I can't do that. I'm going to take a small loss. And that's how the market ends up crashing. So you can sort of see, you can look at the minting contract on Etherscan. So as a project is minting or selling out, you can see how many people are buying it and how many holders there are. And so that's something I keep a really close eye on to decide. Like, I won't just jump into every single project just because I'm there on midday. I think maybe that worked a month ago and it still works to some extent now, but a lot of projects, I mean, the market is overheated. There's too many projects, and a lot of them will maybe not even trade above mint an hour after selling out. So I'll sit and watch and see how quickly it's being minted out and the distribution of the NFTs. And
so there must be some big whales that try to get in and essentially get a big amount of these supply, monopolize the supply. If that starts happening on mint day and too many big participants are coming on, is that your cue to get out? Or if you have a bunch of big wallets in there, in theory, that's kind of potentially a good thing, right? It's kind of a double-edged sword there.
Mm-hmm. It really depends on the person, the wallet, and sometimes you know who they are because they have their ENS address, so you can see exactly who it is that's doing the purchasing. And I'm not going to name names, but some of them are sort of known for dumping bags on people. Some of them are just known for never selling and holding long term. So you can sort of play that game a little bit, but your hand is your hand is in the fate of them, and sort of I don't like that. I like to not rely on the goodness of whales, essentially. I mean, there are good whales, there are not good whales, and at the end of the day, all of them are in this for profit too. So they're looking at their bottom line. They're not benevolent whales.
There are no benevolent whales.
Well, yeah, probably not.
No.
What projects can do to make this better is they can restrict the number of mints per transaction. So if you only allow people to mint 5 NFTs per transaction, then it's very difficult for a whale to accrue 1,000 or 1,500 or 200 or 100. And that ends up with a much more even distribution than there was a project yesterday, you can see here, Rabbit College Club, or maybe it was the day before, time is weird, but they allowed, I think it was 25 mints in one go. So you click 25, press the mint button, and the price was 0.02, and boom, you've just got 25. Press it again, you have 50. Press it a few more times, and all of a sudden one person has 200. So they minted out 10,000, and I believe at when they sold out, there was 535 holders. So the average person had 20 of these NFTs, and that's not healthy. There was a lot of secondary market action, and it was good for a little while, but it came crashing down. If we go up here, you can look at the Rabbit College Club. Yesterday, the floor price was 0.051. Today, it's 0.012. So that's a 70% drop, 80% almost. Yeah.
That's a rug pull.
Almost, yeah. I mean,
What happened?
It's so dangerous.
Why did it crash?
I think part of it was the distribution of holders, too much in the hands of too few. I think that people didn't really resonate with the art. It wasn't anything special. The team wasn't offering anything special. That I could say that about most projects. So I'm not just jumping on the Rabbit College Club. Essentially, a lot of people saw the success that the apes had, and then they just rushed to market with the quickest thing that they can produce. Some of them are just literally copy pasting contracts from other projects, and there are a lot of similarities to what happened in the sort of like the shitcoin meme coin scene in regular crypto with, everyone saw the success of Doge and Shiba, and they were like pumping out these shitty little projects, and it worked well for a while, and then it came crashing down. And I think we're sort of we're nearing the top, I think, and it has to end soon, but I wouldn't group all of these together. Like you have the shitty projects at the bottom where they're not going to make it, but then at the top you have a lot of blue chip projects that are probably going to go up in value, and I don't see them crashing even if the shitcoin or meme coins do. If anything, what I'm already noticing over the last 2 to 3 days is that the bottom end of the projects are bleeding, and money is shifting and going towards the apes, towards the blue chip projects.
Safe havens, if you will. Safer JPEGs.
Yes.
So it's all a bit laughable and a bit of a new world that, look, I'm a big NFT bull, but even this to me is quite scary to have, 6-7 figures of value tied up in something that's, in JPEGs that don't have utility in ecosystems, don't have a product or a video game, don't have a narrative where I could see this really taking off. I'm obviously, I don't know if you're familiar with the channel, but I've been talking for years now about video games and NFTs. But this has been a very, very interesting twist where I see there as being a lot of applications for these. I just don't see people really doing it, right? I see apes as like this explosive community, but I don't think a merch drop is really utility, right? You know, and
No.
you know,
Well, are you familiar with Zedrun, for example?
yeah. So Zedrun allows you to actually use your items, right?
Yes, yeah. It's a horse racing platform, and they've been around for years. I think 2 or 3 years they launched, and obviously were quiet for a while. And then with everything exploding at the start of this year, they were ahead of the curve because they had the platform. They had the foresight to build this gaming platform. You do see a lot of utility projects as well, but they haven't had 3 years of development, so they're not out yet. So let's look at Voxies here in the middle. They had the biggest increase day on day, 58%. They're developing a game, so it's sort of like, like Final Fantasy Tactics, those kind of games, Mario, yeah. So they're developing this game where your NFT is a character in the game, and you can battle other people and win prizes, or you can trade them and level them up, and the utility is there, but it's not built yet. So this is probably closer to the whole ID Bro type thing, or this where you're investing in the future potential of a game. But if you're getting in now, you're still so early in any of these real projects. Yeah, I mean, moving away from utility, you have things like art blocks, which it's art, and it's generative art, so it's created using the blockchain technology, and it's something that wasn't possible before NFTs. And yes, the value is essentially you're still getting a JPEG, or some of them are animated, but if you like the art, then at least if all this goes crashing down, you have a beautiful piece of art. Whereas with a lot of these crappier JPEG projects, you're stuck with a MS Paint job essentially.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for example, I love my apes. I love my cool cats. I wouldn't say I love the visual of my punk, but I like that it is a punk, right? And I like that. Yeah. Right. However, I'm just not as big on pixel art, right? But I know everyone else loves pixel art. So, so for me, I guess I just want to understand, I see a huge application for this in content, right? Huge connection to content. Animations, movies, music, and video games. And I think that that's really the killer application here, but just no one's quite pieced it together yet. And you're seeing kind of like just a crapshoot here of people essentially putting out some cartoons and hoping that they become like iconography, and there's a cult that forms. I guess so beyond like the promises of the roadmap, which we all know about promises of roadmap in normal crypto land, we know about how likely those are to actually be achieved.
Yeah.
What are the ways that people can sort of get their feet wet here? Or do you even recommend that people do get their feet wet here? Because it feels as though everyone else in mainstream crypto is right now depressed, darkness and sadness.
Come to the NFT side. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's sunshine and rainbows in NFT land, where really everyone's waking up richer and richer. Their items are selling, their collections are growing, and how should people start their journey here?
So there is a steep learning curve. That's one of the barriers to entry that I think puts a lot of people off. It's not as, I mean, if you're already a crypto native, you probably understand MetaMask, you have a wallet, so you're a step ahead of the general public. But there are so many NFT projects that you're going to be overwhelmed with where to start, where to buy in, which drop to get in on, what to look for. And I'm going to say the unfortunate truth of the matter is that I say that there's probably roughly $1,000 tuition fee. You're going to pay some money investing in a project that doesn't work out. You're going to lose a gas war. You're going to try and mint something, and whales are paying double the gas, and you end up with a failed transaction. You lose a bit of money. And these are just sort of things that you have to do, or you almost always have to do, and it's what I think is the price of being early. Like, we're so early to understand it, to put a bit of effort in, to put a bit of money in, to dedicate yourself to understanding NFTs. It's not for the faint of heart necessarily. I hope we get to a point where it's very easy to onboard people. But I mean, the profit and the gains wouldn't be so great if it was so easy, if it was just as simple as, oh, what do I buy? Buy that, it goes up. No, you need to do a little bit of research. You need to get your feet wet. You got to jump in, buy some stuff, realize why it doesn't work, and try again, and talk to people. I think everyone is so open and welcoming in the NFT community. You ask someone for advice or help. If anyone DMs me, I will always answer them. And I know a lot of other people are the same. There's excellent Discord communities. I'm planning on setting up my own soon, and we're welcoming. We want to teach you. So if you have questions, ask us. If you don't know where to start, just reach out to people, follow people on Twitter, find some apes. If you see an ape avatar, follow them, message them. They will help you. I promise you.
So that's some wise words. First of all, follow Zeneca33. Awesome job putting together these metrics so that you guys can at least get your head around what collections are growing in what ways, by unique owners, by floor price, understanding that these are key metrics to indicate the health of the collection. And then furthermore, I agree. I started following every punk and every ape, getting into Twitter spaces and joining Discords, and the amount that I learned in the space that I learned it was amazing. I highly encourage you guys to just do the easy part, which is hit follow and hit join, and then do the slightly harder thing, ask questions. And so I completely agree with that. And I think those are super sage words. Roy, Mr. Zeneca33, is there anything else you'd like to leave the audience with? Some final words of wisdom?
I will say this. It's sort of an idea that formed in my head when you were talking about utility of these JPEGs in the future. And I envision a world 1 year, 2 years, 3 years from now, where you have a Bored Ape NFT connected to your MetaMask wallet, connected to your phone. You walk into, say, a club in New York or a bar, and it's owned by an ape owner, or they have a partnership with apes, and all of a sudden you just get a 20% discount. You have, dedicated places where it costs to enter, but if you're an ape, it's free. You have this in the real world. You have this in the metaverse. You have it in, digital land, real land. There is potential and value in being part of a club, essentially. And it's not just the Bored Ape Yacht Club. I'll quickly mention VFriends, which is run by, the entrepreneur Gary V, and members of his club. If you own a VFriend, you get free entry to his conferences. And these probably charge $5,000 a ticket to people who don't have that. So the potential to add this utility later on is astronomical, and that's one of the reasons why I think NFTs are so amazing.
Well, thank you so much for that final closeout here. I agree. There is so much promise. I would like to see more actual utility being driven, but the kind of double-edged sword there is that it's not there yet, so you're still early. I do believe it is coming, like you. I also believe, like you, that most of this is going to zero, so people really need to keep that in mind, that this is a very much so fringe new thing that is very hard to value. So I am fascinated. I'm kind of obsessed myself at this point. I spend more time doing NFT research than DeFi research at this point, just because it's
more fun, right?
It's more fun, and I really enjoy the community. So thank you so much for coming out. We'll have to have you back again, guys. The link for Zeneca's Twitter is in the description. We thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you very soon on the next episode. Cheers, guys.